Sawadee Krab and welcome to another episode here for the Fun Report, Mindful Media and Communication. And today we take a communications point of view to look into romantic chemistry. Now, how communication shapes romance. It's basically the science of attraction and why we connect, maybe even fall for certain people. And to start things off, I want to prompt a question to you and give you a few seconds to think. Is attraction, is it a choice, or is it science? Now, why are we attracted to certain people? Maybe it happened to you. Maybe you felt this instant chemistry, and then you realized, wow, it faded pretty fast. It happened quite fast, but it also faded fast. Or have you gone to this perfect date? You're like, this should be amazing, but then you haven't felt anything. Yeah, if it works, then attraction feels like magic. But actually, when we analyze that magic, we can see there are actually patterns to it. In your brain, as you probably understand in other aspects of life, follows rules, triggers, learned behaviors to determine what it likes. And it's no different to attraction. Okay? So in this episode today, we're going to break down why do we fall for certain people. We will look in a few theories, as always. Now we talk about the attachment theory. Why do we repeat relationship patterns? We talk about a matching hypothesis, difficult for in German. Why we tend to date people on our level. We talk about the proximity effect, like why attraction is often just about who's available in the area. And we talk about cultural perspectives, how different societies view love and attraction. Okay, so the key idea today is that attraction isn't just random, it's patterns, psychology, and social influence. And in the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to explore that, okay? All right, let's get started. So, first question I asked you was, why are we drawn to certain people over and over and over again? And here we can look into the attachment theory. It is kind of like your brain's romantic blueprint. And there are different attachments that we go for. It is the secure attachment, there's the anxious attachment, there's the avoidant attachment, for example. So it basically explains why your past shapes your attraction. For example, we have, let's take a pop culture example actually, from Friends, Ross and Rachel, right? We're all familiar with that. What kind of connection, attachment would you say this is? Is it secure? Is it anxious? Is it avoidant? So you see, there are different forms of attachment, right? Or if you're more into like K-dramas, Crash Landing on You. Also a very classical attachment example. Now, I'd like to invite you to think about other shows, movies with where there's romance involved, and think, how are those characters, how are they getting attached? Is it based on security? Is it based on avoidance in the beginning? Is there anxiety at first? So you can see usually that the past of the characters influences how they eventually find each other. And it's no different to real life, because of course shows are modeled after real life, right? So the attachment theory basically explains that we have certain attachment issues, if you will. We are looking for security, we are too anxious, we are trying to avoid certain things, and that's why we choose certain partners. So to repeat, the attachment theory, your romantic blueprint in your brain, focuses on different forms of attachment. What I just said, right? Secure, anxious, avoidant. So secure basically means that you're comfortable with intimacy and emotionally stable. That's what you're looking for. Emotionally stable. Who is that these days? The anxious attachment style means you crave closeness, but you fear rejection. They're very often overthinking interactions. And avoidant means that this person pulls away when things get too serious, that they're avoiding deep emotional connections. Okay? Probably been hurt a lot before, and that's why that would happen. Now, why does it matter? Well, if you keep falling for emotionally unavailable people, you might have this anxious attachment style. And if you constantly lose interest when someone gets close to you, you might be avoidant. Okay? And if relationships feel very or relatively stable and fulfilling, you might have this secure attachment style. So understanding how we work, how we operate can be beneficial to see why we do certain things in relationships and how we communicate with our partners. Back to the examples, I hope you thought about it now. Ross and Rachel. It's a classic anxious avoidant dynamic, actually, right? They're coming close and one of them will pull away, for example. And a crash landing view. Secure attachment being developed over time. Do I have other examples? Well, I had 2 examples from class, so I hope they also resonate with you. Some of my students mentioned Gossip Girl. So if you're into Gossip Girl, intense chemistry, deeply toxic, fueled by avoidance. Mm-hmm. So, and one of my exchange students mentioned, which I found very interesting, Indian matchmaking on Netflix. Family involvement in matchmaking adds like a completely different layer to attachment formation, because all of a sudden the family layer is so intense in there as well. So takeaway for the intro is that attraction isn't just about who's right for you, it's about who feels familiar, even if that's sometimes not that healthy. And it leads me to the second theory, the matching hypothesis. Do we actually date up or date down? You might have heard that term before, right? So people, according to that theory, people tend to pair up with others who are on their level in looks, status, values. Now, why? If someone seems to be too far above or too far below of our self-perception, we feel kind of uneasy. And that's why celebrity couples, for example, match in fame and attractiveness quite often. However, personality can override looks. So if someone has high social values, such as being very confident, being very funny, being influential maybe even, they can break that matching hypothesis cycle according to that theory. I do have some pop culture examples where we hopefully can see that. I mean, the go-to would of course be Beyoncé and Jay-Z, like this hardcore power couple when it comes to the influence in the music industry. We could look into Tom Holland and Zendaya, for example, right? There's similar fame, similar social standing, kind of similar acting prowesses, I guess. Since I'm based in Thailand, I also wanted to mention that of course a big thing is the BL dramas, like Together, Bad Buddy, the Thai BL dramas. Very often here in those Thai dramas, attraction is based on shared status and personality, and not just the physical looks. So they're trying to reflect the cultural values, for example. So the takeaway here is that attraction isn't just about looks. It's about self-perception and social compatibility. Okay. And speaking of compatibility, we don't only want social compatibility, we also want romantic compatibility, of course. And now there are some hidden signals that might dictate how that works out. And there we can talk about a theory called the proximity effect. Because quite often love is just geography, if you will. So the proximity effect says that we tend to fall for people who are physically around us. Now that might have changed over the years, because now the world's a global village, right? Hey, Marshall McLuhan. So we're connected to everybody. So thanks to the internet and so on, it's easier to fall for people that you might not even be close with. But generally speaking, the proximity effect suggests that we're falling for people that we're close with to could also mean close in an online community, for example. Okay. But there's a reason why, for example, lots of couples meet through work, school, mutual friends, gym, cafe, bar, and so on, right? Now, of course, more people now meet online, but I think the proximity effect also works there. Online proximity is also a thing, okay? And the OG theory from the 50s or whatever, long time ago, suggests that the brain subconsciously assigns more value to people it sees often. That also works online though, right? If you're talking to someone frequently online, you're also adding more value, assigning more value to that person. I'm hesitating a little because I wonder like how, or like more like why, and you see me wondering in real time or wondering in real time, why that's still not a big deal in most shows on Netflix or movies and so on. That's all still the old school proximity effect, right? People meet in a bar and so on. Barely ever any stories about like I met this person online. So very interesting. But hey, the takeaway here is that your type might just be who's available in your environment, and be that in real life, at the gym, when you play sports, at work or whatever, where you spend lots of time, or be that in those online areas where you're spending lots of time at. It could be like in games, on streams, wherever, right? Wherever those people are and where you spend lots of time, you might find someone that you connect with there. Proximity theory. Okay. Now the next one is a very interesting one. I mean, they're all interesting, of course, otherwise I wouldn't mention them, but there's one that's called similarity attraction theory. Why we like people who mirror us. Weird, right? So the theory suggests that we are more likely to be attracted to people who share our interests, values, and communication styles. That's the theory. Okay, cool. What about this thing that opposites attract, though? Well, according to science, that's not the case. We just think that because of movies, but actually, we appreciate if other people have something in common with us. That's also why rapport building with strangers, it works well via different techniques such as mirroring. If you mirror someone's behavior, someone's body language, someone's interests, then they usually open up to you faster. And that also applies to romantic relationships, of course. We're interested in people that we have something in common with, that are similar to us in terms of value, communication, interests. The thing that opposites attract is a weird saying, probably made in Hollywood. Okay, so forget about that. Your best match isn't your opposite. It's probably someone that aligns with your worldview to some extent. Otherwise, you might actually have too much friction there at some point. Now, when it comes to communication, it's not only about talking, right? It's also about nonverbal cues, the unspoken rules of attraction, so to speak. And attraction, flirting, and so on isn't random. It's all about like this, what I said, nonverbal communication. And I mean, you probably all heard it before. The keys to nonverbal attraction, maybe, sustained eye contact that activates like bonding hormones, for example. If you want to just said mirror body language, like open body language, not just closed body language, that shows like the subconscious connection. If you lean in, that shows interest. Those small physical touches here and there raise dopamine levels. You've all heard that before, but it's all backed by science. So there's a reason for it. Okay. So the takeaway here is, if you want to be more attractive, focus on your body language. Okay. Body language, confidence, engagement. It's not just your looks. And the key tip here, active listening. But we talk about this in another episode. Now, before we come to like almost we passed the halfway point already, so before we go into the finish line, we talked about chemistry in the beginning. And there's a reason why it feels real. The question is why? Because we said like, hey, chemistry is actually like all, you can all explain it with science, but now how is that still working? And how do we still feel like this chemistry, this connection? Yeah, we see it also in movies, right? Pop culture comes again. We see it in Jack and Rose. Oh, see it in Romeo and Juliet. See it in Twilight, for God's sake, right? So why is chemistry still real? Or why do we feel like it's real? Well, let me break it down those 3 examples, right? So for example, in Titanic, there's like this high-stakes environment. Will they survive? In a high-stakes environment, we're exposed to heightened emotions. Also works in real life. You're in high-stakes environment in real life, your emotions will also be elevated. Okay, that's one thing. That's why you think, oh, that must be chemistry. In Romeo and Juliet, instant attraction and danger, right? Can I say literal? It's a literal disaster that's happening in Romeo and Juliet, right? We can say that. That also feels like chemistry. There's attraction and the danger, okay? Also makes us feel like, oh my God, there must be something special here. Well, Twilight, same thing, right? Mystery, danger. Oh God, we must have this deep connection. And yeah, those are pop culture references, but it also applies to real life. Mystery, danger, high stakes environments, that all leads to heightened emotions, and it makes us feel like there is something special there. You might have actually realized that you met something in a time of distress, maybe like, oh my God, there's a great bond right now, and then once everything becomes more settled, more normal, you're like, oh, where did the chemistry go, right? So that's it. Chemistry feels real, but isn't always what we actually think it might be. And this leads me to the ranting part of today's episode. Because, well, media always sells us the perfect match fantasy, right? Hollywood, Bollywood, K-dramas, Thai BL series, they all push those fate-driven love stories. And those myths, they just reinforce unrealistic expectations of attraction. Love at first sight, right? Cinderella, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast. Hey Disney, I'm looking at you. Or even worse, I think, those grand romantic gestures. Because only grand romantic gestures equal real love. The Notebook, Bollywood romances, Ted and How I Met Your Mother. All those things. And now, you might see that lots of people are expecting it. Valentine's Day here in Thailand is insane. What people spend and how people go out of their way for like those grand gestures with like 1 billion roses everywhere and whatnot. Insanity. How pop culture, how the media influences the way we communicate what we think we feel. Toxic relationships so often being portrayed as passion in the media. What the hell? Get out of there. It's toxic. It's not passion. Yeah. And then that's what then societies might actually think or might model their behavior after. But here in Thailand, domestic violence is a big thing, a big deal. No one talks about it. Because well, we see it in those soap operas all the time. It's normal. No, it's not. Right, so the media sells us like those fantasies that are not real. And we know it's not real. And we've had like so many podcast episodes about like why we know it's not real and why the media sells us what they're selling us. Yeah, we know like what the agenda is behind all their content that they're producing. Yet we're still falling for it. And so that's my biggest takeaway for today, maybe, that pop culture media overemphasizes things such as instant chemistry, love at first sight, grand gestures, and so on, and actually underestimates long-term compatibility. Now, as always, I have to end on a question. I want to know, how do you feel? How do you really feel? How do you feel about communication and romantic relationships? And do you think it's being influenced by what we see in the media, what we see on social media? And what shall we do about it? Educate? Digital or media literacy? Does that help? What can we do? As always, let me know in the comments, either on Spotify in the comments, social media at FunkyPod, email funkypod@gmail.com. Shout out, let me know. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. You know the deal. If you like this episode, this video, the follow would be very much appreciated. Until then, stay safe, take care, good luck in all the relationships, and until next time. Sawadee Krap.